Good morning and welcome back to Morning at NTV. We're glad you're still with us. If you're just joining us from wherever you're watching, a very welcome on board. You find us at the Kickstarter segment where we are going to be discussing the latest developments in the traders' impasse with the government following the industrial action that was occasioned upon Kampala and its metropolitan areas last week, but ended in a meeting between the traders leaders and President Yoweri Museveni, and there was a new development to that effect: the halting of the execution of the controversial A-freeze system, but an opportunity and a chance to thresh out these issues between the president and the technocrats, including Uganda Revenue Authority, on the 24th of April, and on the 7th of May, a meeting between all traders and the president is on the cards. That will be at the Kololo Independence Grounds. We shall be understanding exactly what was the tone and the temperament of that discussion between the president and the traders leaders. We have in the studio Thaddeus Musoke Nagenda. He's the chairperson of Kasita Uganda. He will be telling us exactly what transpired. I also have with me in the studio Dr. Ezra Muhumuza, the executive director of the Uganda Manufacturers Association. The traders have complained that manufacturers also have some issues that they are responsible for, especially with regard to distribution of certain goods, and that is completely altering the ecosystem and the value chain, especially for wholesalers and retailers. The nitty-gritty shall be shared because it's a concern with the traders. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Let me begin with Mr. Thaddeus Musoke, chairperson of Kasita Uganda. We've heard and read within the plethora of media reports, newspapers, TV, radio, of what transpired, and the fact that the A-freeze system and its execution by Uganda Revenue Authority is at least halted for now. If you don't mind taking us through the tone of the meeting on Friday, and let us travel through the mind of the president as you heard from him.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning, viewers. The meeting on Friday, we may term it as successful because all the technical team was present. The ministers, the leaders of the traders, and even some traders attended. And those who were denied entry to the State House had to stand still with us outside State House until midnight. We are humbled of such a great solidarity because the concerns of the traders were of a great concern. The president first gave us chance, the leadership, because I led the delegation where we tackled several concerns from the trading community. First of all, we were concerned about the manufacturers who distort the practices of trade, where you are the manufacturer, you are the distributor, you are the wholesaler, retailer, and currently there is certain company which has changed the methodology of doing business by hiring given hawkers along Nabugabo Road at start hawkering jeans, which Kasita was, and other partners, we totally against. And furthermore, also the traders were complaining about the Small Business Recovery Fund, which was allocated to the traders, but they never accessed. Maybe our comrades may be accessed, but you find that traders were struggling, business closing, and others. We had to also handle the challenge of VAT because you find that VAT, like the other time when I gave an example, when you purchase from the factory, VAT is already there. And then like when you go to Chukubo, you have to also add the cost of VAT. So it has a direct effect on the pricing of the commodity.
That
was the concern of the traders. People were misunderstanding us. And now when you bring in IFRIS, automatically, IFRIS, they are like twins with VAT. And even also it brings in withholding tax. So you find that like when you're buying from the manufacturers, URA will claim that no problem, you are going to claim for that money. But for the manufacturer, remains with that money for almost a month. So what does it imply? That it has a direct impact on the cost of doing business. When you do financial management, the moment you hold someone's money and you use your money, someone's money without any interest, that is another strategy. So you find that for VAT, it enables that for the manufacturers. So our position was, can we pay VAT at once so that we are not inconvenienced? The traders want ease of doing business. So they are recommending that can we pay VAT at the entry or at the manufacturer's point. But this VAT in, VAT out, given the fact that most of our members, the level of education is limited, we thought we need just to simplify for them the tax which can be easily understood. Furthermore, we are complaining about the enforcement by URA. With this one personally, you know, we had gone into partnership with URA to see that how do we champion compliance. But the officers were corrupt, they were intimidating. You know, someone calling you that we are going to sensitize you on gunpoint, checking anyone who is getting to Chikubo and outside. So creating unnecessary excitement within the public. But we tried to engage the management of Uganda Revenue Authority and even the enforcement officers, but the response wasn't timely. Which made the traders petition CACIT and other associations to come in and see how best we can intervene. Also, we had another challenge of high taxes. Mainly you find like on garments and textiles. Here the president realized there was a mistake which was done by, I think, Parliament, because let me give an example of this factory in Mbale, which is manufacturing jeans. They import the raw material without paying any tax. And they had committed themselves to the president that they be given a period of just 1 month. They are going to start processing cotton. But up to now, they are just importing the textiles. And when you look at our comrades in Chiyembe, in Ham, who are still struggling, the tailors, for them, when you use that material, is taxed at 35 or $3.5 per kilo. So you find that was unjust the way the law was passed. Since all the adding value, and this since it's a raw material, why should someone pay taxes on the raw material when another one doesn't pay taxes? Another concern was about on garments, the 35 and the $3.5 per kilo. This one makes us donate the market to Kenya. You find that Uganda has a strategy of industrialization, which we fully support, because manufacturers and traders, we have to be partners. So when we are denied importation, it denies us with the chance of being with different commodities on the market. So the more variety we are having on the market, our comrades in Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, and South Sudan could come here and take variety. And even our commodities, our locally made products, we're accessing those markets. Because also as CACIT, we have another strategy of promoting locally made Ugandan products within East African market and African market. But denial and overtaxing these imports, there is a way it has pushed our customers to Kenya. Because Kenya, it has this advantage that the distance from the coast to the capital, Nairobi, is a little bit cheaper. They're using even other means of transport, like the standard rail gauge. And then the VAT in Kenya is 16.
Here it's 18.
Here 18. And then the rate for taxes, valuation is 25, here 35. So you cannot compete with them.
Okay. Thank you very much for that overview of exactly what those concerns were and how they were put to the President. Allow me to come to Dr. Ezra Muhumza, Executive Director of the Uganda Manufacturers Association. You've had the chairperson of CASITA speak about what is no doubt a concern against manufacturers and how they distort the business for them there. But before you comment on that, I'd like to get your view as from the manufacturer's point and as a businessman, because I believe that is exactly the whole notion as to why you are within the Manufacturers Association. What is your take on the traders' impasse with the URA? Is this something you agree with? Some of the concerns, especially on enforcement and implementation of that particular system, before you can address what appears to be a very, very pertinent concern from Mr. Thaddeus Musoke.
Thank you very much, Chris. When you talk about the impasse between traders and URA, I partially disagree. Because URA, what is their duty and mandate? Their duty is to collect taxes. But the tax bills are not made by URA. That's to begin with.
Okay.
They are told you go and enforce, use this framework to correct taxes. So the first question is, whoever sends them, do they make very informed consultative processes and they come up with these bills that are productive, that are considerate to the views of the majority? The answer is no. That's where the whole thing originates from. URA, they are on pressure. They are in between dying for the nation. The second thing that is creating challenges with URA, I don't speak for URA, but I want to do this simple analysis. Currently, us as an economy, our problem is that the rate, what do we tax? We tax value. We tax value, and this value comes from production.
That's right.
Now, the rate at which our national value is increasing is slower compared to the rate at which we spend as a country. Simple arithmetic. Now, in between, we are all the time in a crisis. And no wonder we keep coming up to deal with symptoms. There is this strike, there is the other strike. You cannot run an economy on strikes. You cannot run an economy when you respond to strikes. Because I want to pose this question here. CASITA and the other traders closed shop 2 weeks ago. But when did this problem start? This problem has been there for some good months. And I want to believe and I want to assure everyone watching that this time around the traders were very gentle and they handled the matter systematically. They made efforts. They contacted the Minister for Presidency. They contacted the Minister for Trade. They contacted the Minister for Kampala. They contacted the Minister for Investment. Contacted the Minister for Finance. Pose a question, why can't any of these create a solution?
Before you
Traders are not interested in seeing the President. They have already seen the President. But why? You pose a question, why? It means there are systems that are not working. That's where the challenge is. The issues are very simple, if you may, not all the issues that actually need a president. In other economies, how is trade, how is business run? Does it have to look for the president every other time? The answer is not. So the moment we fail to see where the problem is coming from and we want to xerox and concentrate, I think it's about URA. In my view, we have a bigger market management problem which is beyond URA. So to me, I wanted to bring this context so that we discuss when we know.
That's right.
Where do we tackle to get solutions. trust me, we'll get to Kororo, we'll listen to the president, but the real problems will not go away. Why? The systems, the institutions that are supposed to be addressing these issues are not doing their job. What is happening when we meet these people? They have very good practice. They write these things in their notebooks. Wherever you talk, they write, they write. You wait for the solution, it never comes.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, we are very positive that we'll get to hear the president, because the problems of the traders, or what the traders are facing, don't be mimicked to think that that's the end. There are a million problems. And actually, I want to bring to your attention that one of the reasons why the president could immediately give his thoughts, he knows there are other issues that are actually affecting traders beyond what the Ministry of Finance put on the paper for him. He wants to interrogate,
of course,
the other issues and what are the system failures that are coming in.
All right. And of course, in light of the meeting on the 22nd, on the 24th rather, with the technocrats, Minister of Finance, and also with the URA, should inform his communication on the 7th of May when he meets traders. We do hope that an actual workable and practical solution comes forth. But do respond to the concerns that manufacturers are either deliberately or as a result of the failings of the system, as you allude to, both manufacturer and distributor, something that is distorting the chain of transactions and business for the lesser men.
Thank you. Now, let's put this context to understand where the problem is. When currently the law tells the investor, come and do what? Come and manufacture and then sell. There is no license that says come and manufacture and then put in a store. No, it is manufacture and sell. Unless it is for EPZ, the economic free zones, where you get a license to produce for export. But the law accommodates for 20% to be sold domestically.
That's right.
Now, the challenge that we have got, when you conduct import substitution, whose obligation is it to mobilize the local uptakers? Is it the investor or the apparatus that is promoting this inward-looking policy? So we thought that at one time there is a need. Someone should have reached out to the traders and say, look, we know you've been gaining from importing, but now we need to transit a little bit and you gain from manufacturing from home. So the traders are not brought into the equation of import substitution. They remain out. They don't know even how they come in. Now, the other challenge is when you see people on the market, whose duty is it to control the market, to know that this is a licensed person on the market, this is not a licensed person? Currently, the law that is in place is about the foreigners and their license, what we call work permit. The work permit is supposed to be enforced by the Ministry of Internal Affairs, but they are not on the market. So some people use these loopholes to come and claim that they are around as investors. But when you try to investigate, they are not investors. Us as manufacturers, our position is very clear. It is not prudent, it's not good to have someone come and manufacture from here, and he is a manufacturer, a storekeeper, a distributor, a retailer. It is not acceptable. It's not fair. Much as the law is not there that prohibits that, but it's not fair in the practices of business. And therefore, we are trying to engage our manufacturers that say, look, if you have things you want to bring to the market, it is incumbent to come to us as Manufacturers Association. We create a framework with the casitas and we see how they can offtake your things. Right now, they don't know that there is someone who has things to take, but we are busy blaming them. Kasita are not buying from our manufacturers. So we are putting up that framework to ensure that the two work together, which is now association to association. And it's good it is coming out. But at national level, we have pushed for the creation of the competition law. It had stalled in one way or the other, but eventually we got this assented to by the president. We now have a law. We are putting pressure on the minister to fast track the guidelines, fast track the regulation to see how it comes out. However, we are not certain that it will work, because in this bill, we argued for the creation of a commission to address the challenge that I spoke to, market management. But the way it is, if it is thrown into the Ministry of Trade, the way that ministry is structured right now, we are not positive that we will get results. So we are pushing, let government create a commission that will regulate, that will run the day-to-day affairs of market management, because to us this is a sensitive issue. Our sister country across is managing this, Kenya, just because they have a commission. But because this came across when there was this rationalization, everything has been taken in omnibus way to think that creation of any agency is not rational. But for us, we say competition commission is very important. Interesting submission there, and of course one that reveals so much about market management that can be a whole discussion for another day. But you've heard Mr. or rather Dr. Ezra Mhumuza and his thinking, especially with regard to the concerns that you have at Kasita. Do you agree?
The fact is that we are partners with the Uganda Manufacturers Association. And our concern is not mainly about Ugandan manufacturers. We have some common clause, because even we as the private sector, we need collaboration. That's right. To champion fair policies. For sure, most of the points he has presented are right. Mainly our concern is just about some few factories for some Indians, and then...
Since we are dealing with a matter of fact, we would be emboldened if you share information. For example, factories this, the other.
Let me give an example. Naiti. They have some shops competing with our members from Chiembe. Right. We met them, and even the Ministry of Finance, and they advised, but they never responded positively at 14 Plaza. He knows. They can sell one roll. Because personally, I do buy textile. I went there, I tested them. They gave me 2 pieces of rolls. So what is that? They have agents in Chiembe. So totally, I think that's the only company. But these other companies, like for the Chinese, most of them are doing that. Most of the Chinese, they are doing that. And then for the Chinese in Kapeka, we engaged. For them, they are not, they're in line with what is presenting. But mainly we have a challenge for the jean manufacturers. They have shops in Nabugabo. Even they have hawkers now hawking their jeans. So you find, I think, that's what is fueling the excitement in the traders. But even like what he said, we also saw a notice which was issued by the Ministry of Trade. We have a challenge, for sure. Some systems don't work. That's why most of in order to get some good response, you have to rush to the president. There was no need of going to meet the president. The Minister of Finance and Minister of Trade, may they handle this, or even the Parliament. But you find that you write to them, they don't respond. It's like you have to beg them. And that's why by there is forcing people to strike. Personally, I don't believe in demonstrations, because dialogue and engagement, that would be the better approach. And then it becomes worse when one time I was on a certain media house with one of the MPs who was praising manufacturers who go on and retail. So I saw a category even of some MPs still lacking. And when you see him presenting, you may think that this man is knowledgeable. So we as the private sector, we need to champion a lot of engagements. even, I think even during politics, because at times we elect people because of excitement, and when we reach parliament, totally they miss most of the very sensitive policies which have direct impact on every Ugandan. But what even the other time I didn't talk about are the penalties. Most of the members in Uganda Manufacturers Association also they are members of CASITA because the law allows that.
It allows, yeah.
And even where at times maybe they have a lot to handle and they feel, when members feel that they are not contented, they come to our side because they know CASITA we are a little bit more aggressive and vibrant. Also they have issues with the digital stamp. But URA has kept on improving, but again, there are still issues which they have to handle. That's the fact. And even like for the competition also, we have another concern where some manufacturers reach to the big man and the big man protects them. I want to give an example of our comrades who are in beverages.
Right.
Can you believe that white sugar has been so scarce on the market that they cannot import? Because they told the big man, the president, that we have the capacity to make white sugar. And people were incurring losses. He knows. They approached them, they approached us, and unfortunately when they approached some members of parliament, they told them, I'll get us some good brown envelopes so that we intervene. Until we came in, we had to engage, and then we told them, hello, please, you are going to task IGG maybe to start investigating you guys. Do you know what was causing this? The cost of brown sugar is a little bit lesser than the cost of processing white sugar. But the market price, almost they are the same. So they were preferring to produce brown sugar than white sugar, but creating scarcity. But that shows the importance of, yes, we want local production, but if the capacity, we are just building capacity, why do you eliminate importation, which can substitute and balance the market? So the penalties were also the concern, mainly from the president when we made that presentation. Just imagine the machine is faulty, they want to imprison you for 10 years or 30 million.
Because power provided.
And also these people have been penalized. I'm telling you, they have been penalized. I've seen factories, you know, we had a strategy of how can you transform a trader into a manufacturer, or maybe like a big manufacturer or cottage industry. But most of our comrades who ventured into that, businesses have collapsed.
Interesting submission there. And when you talk about the fact that manufacturers are protected, some, I must be very specific.
Yes.
I want to ask Dr. Ezra Mahomza, as chairman as executive director of Uganda Manufacturers Association, you are better placed to access the corridors of government more than the trader under CASITA in terms of engagement. At what level have, or rather has, UMA engaged with the various stakeholders, especially in import substitution, to ensure that some of the concerns that he raises are addressed, but most importantly, as part of effort to ensure that the market is well regulated and perhaps the inconsistencies brought about by politicians who might discuss these matters without necessarily having a heart in them is avoided?
I don't want to agree that manufacturers are a preference compared to traders. We are all players in the economy.
That's right.
And we interdepend on each other. Except that maybe what differs is the method and the approach of engagement. But normally the issues that the traders have are as salient as the issues that
the
manufacturers have.
The idea is on executive level conversations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Manufacturers, by the fact that they are assembled, they are few in numbers, by the way.
Yes.
If you told me to mobilize them, by evening I have them. But if you told the casita to mobilize, he needs a lot of time.
He needs
So I think that's what
right.
maybe differs. Then again, is that by the fact that manufacturers have permanent addresses and what, they cannot engage in some approaches because they are sizable in terms of identification. Now, what effort we've tried to do is to engage, and we have created various forums. We are at different forums with the government. Of recent, we created a CEO forum where we meet the president and all his technocrats and the heads of agencies, and we get into conversation to see how best do we drive the economy, how do we address some of these salient issues. Now, the challenge that we have, it is not the lack of the forum for engagement. The challenge is the lack of the willingness on the side of the implementers of the policy frameworks to ensure that these policy frameworks deliver solutions. And because of that, we are all the time in ad hoc situation. Currently, we went to Kororo, and the president, which is unprecedented, came at 10 o'clock to speak to the investors in this economy. From 10 up to 6, the gentleman, the president, listened to all, and he kept saying, can I get a solution from, they all kept giving him hope that we have a solution the next day. Talk of now, I can quote it here. They all promised him how we are getting solutions. Now, it's around 4 months down the road, coming to 6 months, nothing on some of these things that we raised to the president. Now, when you hear us again say, we need to go and see the president, and they say, but why do you want to see the president? So I want to make it clear, let us see the president when he's giving us awards. But this business of looking for the president to solve issues, we have issues of digital.
The technocrats are paid.
Technocrats. The issue of ADR. This is the alternative dispute solution resolution at URA. I put it now to the URA. Let them give us a report that in the last 1 month, in the last 6 months, these are the number of cases that came, and these are the ones we resolved. They just presented that forum. People keep appealing, but nothing. That forum never sits. What does it imply to you? I want to come to the penalties now. It is that instead, URA has lost it, and they want to use the penalty as a source of revenue.
Yes.
And this is, yes. For instance, in this thing you hear of application and use of IFRIs, that if you do not, the charge is 6 million.
6 million Uganda shillings.
6 million. Now,
on an offense that could have been occasioned by the fact that there is no power provided.
No. I have one of
internet.
I have one of his members.
Yeah.
You know, he's in snacks. He had hired some boda guys. So like they find a boda man, take him to look for customers, and he's penalized. So totally, they have issues which we think we have when we join our hands as a private sector. We have to champion for a law to be improved in implementation of some policies.
Let him make
so the point I am making here, and we are suggesting in the appeals that we brought to this discussion, is that let the penalty be a percentage of the invoice that I defaulted on.
Yes.
Not 6 million is based on what? Let someone come out and say, we levied 6 million as a penalty basing on this. Because even the process of default goes case by case. I could have defaulted because I didn't know. I could have defaulted because power was off. Internet was off. The point which we call, they call it the electronic physical deposit, the device.
Device,
The POS could be faulty. Now, once that thing happens, they say, we don't want to know what cause could be. All we need is 6 million. Whether your business is can make 6 million or not, the implication is if your business is for 3 million and you default, you must pay 6 million. Do you know what it implies? That you're
going out of business.
No, not that, because you have a case with URA. You must go to Chris's house, break into and get 3 million, add it to your capital, pay URA. That's what it implies.
Interesting.
Where do we, you go to the bank and put in maybe now a correct of your child and then you get 3 million. Because look at this. In the event that my business, after all, let me make this clear. We are talking about VAT here.
Yeah.
If we are talking about VAT, VAT is not supposed to be paid by a manufacturer, neither a distributor or a trader. It is supposed to be paid by a consumer, for your information.
That one is
the final person that consumes. So in this case, if it's the one that has defaulted, you had gone to KFC to take chapati, but in the event that you don't pay, and the receipt is not indicating, then you must pay 6 million. Because here we are asking, who should pay 6 million, who shouldn't be paying? So that penalty thing is vague, and in my view, I think on purpose, so that they collect more money using a penalty, which in tenets of taxation is never allowed.
I would be remiss if I don't promise you and our audience that we shall be speaking to the head of corporate affairs, Commissioner for Corporate Affairs at Uganda Revenue Authority, to ensure that this question is answered. We shall get to him, and hopefully he will appear here on MorningAtNTV to give some clarification on that. Now, allow me ask you, gentlemen, because you are business persons and you've traveled to Kenya. We understand that AFRIS has been rolled out successfully across some countries in the region. I do not know whether you've had an opportunity to study its implementation in Kenya or any other country that it's working as successfully as reported. What is the framework, especially for penalties, for example? Is it down to the percentage of the offense that you've made? If you might just share that information with us.
Yeah. When we are talking about a penalty, or we are talking about introduction of a new system, there are two basics. It must make logical sense.
All right.
Whether it is a process that is taking us to the heaven, there must be some sense of logic. You get?
Not euphoria.
No, not just imagining. You cannot run a national system on imagination the way you wouldn't run it on whims. Just I'm angered today, then tomorrow you cross all the people in Chikubo. No. It should be based on logic. Number two, it must be understood with minimum effort. Because you are not going to be the one to continue policing understanding of a system. So in Kenya, the difference that they have with us is that they took the rigorous process to ensure that people, number one, have got record systems.
Okay.
Number two, these POs, for those who did not have systems, and actually let me make this clear, the reason why we do not see similar outcry in manufacturers compared to the traders is that manufacturers had already systems of input-output invoicing. So it became just a matter of integration. And the information came out.
Onboarding was easier for you than it was for the traders.
Now, for the traders who did not have this, are supposed to buy a POS. A POS is that device of receipt. Usually, our normal tradition was to do a receipt using a paper. But now they say produce it. And now they are saying, where do I get this machine? And that's where I'm saying, people, they are not understanding the behavior of URA. They think there are some sinister motives behind. Who sells this machine? They say it's a preserve of URA. And who? Some agents of URA. And by the way, let me tell you another secret that is coming up. Why the president is very busy investigating. There is suspicion that some of URA officers are against IFRIS. Why? So as long as things are not clear, the determination of the tax, how much you pay, continues to be in the hands of the enforcing office. Are you paying this or I close you? So with IFRIS, once IFRIS makes it clear, that man loses power.
And money.
And money. So there are those who are busy working against IFRIS by pushing hard, by pushing out of the law to ensure that the traders and other people detest it, by deliberately not explaining to our users what it is all about. They have curtailed flow of information. They want that gray area to continue being there. And
so they can play within their advantage.
And the president has detected all this. You see, the advantage that he has over any other person, he has multiple channels of information. And he's saying, are you sure? Let me investigate. And trust me, you will hear him say, but I don't like this. Now, who pays who? Where can I buy a POS? Why is it that it is a specific group?
Ask that question to Mr. Musoke. You've searched for that machine, right?
Yes.
Have you been able to access it?
No.
Or do you know?
Currently, we don't know, but the URA tells us that they value that machine at a cost.
URA says they have the machine,
at
and they are the ones to avail it.
Yes, and then secondly, they were championing the new app which they have developed, that since we have excuse that the machine is costly, now they have app. But the main concern, by the way, basing on us who are mainly in Chikubo, what created the excitement to fuel the demonstration was about the harshness from the law enforcement officers.
Tell me, just draw a situation. I know, just let me interject here. He talked about the officer responsible for enforcement who comes and basically makes it hard for you and wants to settle things quickly. If you can't, I close. When you encounter those officers, how do they let you off?
No,
you pay money, and then
the fact is some members pay. Even during enforcement, they were getting money from customers to allow you proceed. But what we did, we advised our members, please take a video, record and send to the Commissioner General, even other bigger officers from ERA. We did that. Evidence is there. Even the Commissioner General can accept that. Yes, we sent. There is a lot of corruption. Even in the digital, with this IFRI system, they find you with any issue, they want money or a bigger penalty. So they were intimidating. A lot of intimidation was happening within the population. And even the approach, like the other time I said, the approach of the project to penetrate within the stakeholders. How do you engage the stakeholders? They were scared, given our members, that this time, you people, you are done. We have got you, have been cheating the government. We are not paying what you are supposed to pay in taxes. So it was, even it was so fake that it was a lot of intimidation. That's why the system was rejected. And even they never gave room for technology adoption. Like we have so many issues, by the way. Mine may need differ. The good thing he has said that the president is investigating. You never know. But even what I am thinking, there is a team in URA which is fighting the Commissioner General. Because when you're having an engagement, after discussing so well, you feel that yes, he has taken up what you have presented, because we are giving you a feedback to improve on the way they exercise their policies or mandate. But the next time, totally see something different on the ground. Like we told him, after engaging the president and assigning the Commissioner General and the permanent secretary, he came at the secretariat where traders met, and we had tried to contain the excitement.
And the anxiety.
But on Monday, it was a Saturday, on Monday, what happened in Chikubo, you could think it's a barracks. So that inconvenience, that rashness, the way when you are executing your mandate, we Ugandans, we need peace. We need a very conducive environment. We don't want that inconvenience. And by the way, it was scaring. Our members are right. It was scaring even our customers.
Of course.
So what could our trader do?
No customer wants to be hit.
And by the way, they had other avenues of implementing this system. For instance, they can tell manufacturers, don't supply someone who is not an IFRS. They can tell a trader, if you want to do business with bigger companies, you're supposed to be on IFRS. If you want to supply a supermarket, you're supposed to be on IFRS. So there are simpler avenues which even you or I could implement, and by the engaging, you can identify. Now, like if you go to Uganda Manufacturers Association, you can say, who are the big guys in Chikubu, based on what they purchase.
They know them.
You call them, you engage them, you sensitize them. At times when we call these big engagements, you see some people come, but when they are not the big sorts. Okay. So when the big sorts come in and you change their mindset, they can adopt to the technology.
All right, let me ask the uncomfortable question about transparency in business, because URA has a point from which it's also coming, and often says that traders are engaged in double bookkeeping, where you have the book that URA will see, but there's also one that you run on your own. And there seems to be evidence on their part that these things are happening. And the only thing they don't want to do, perhaps, is to come at any one particular trader as an example to the rest.
No, I think that's a perception. But again, I may not be against a trader who is having two books. Reason?
Why?
The cost of doing business in Uganda.
You're justifying
No, yes, I'm telling
circumvention.
you. If the cost of doing business in Uganda, the cost of living in Uganda, the taxes in Uganda, multiple taxes are very, very unfavorable. Let me give a scenario. Like for the governments, you pay $3.5 per kilo, or 35. And then there is environmental levy, 1.5. Then there is infrastructure, 1.5. VAT, 18. Withholding, 6. How can you survive? The fact is, let the taxes be fair. People will comply. When the taxes are unfavorable and you need to stay in Chikubu,
you will have to get another book.
You need to find other avenues for survival. I'm telling you this. This is point blank. He knows. Even our concerns are the same with the manufacturers. Also, they are heavily taxed. And another challenge is even the access to long-term financing is terrible.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. So, cost of doing business in Uganda, unless it is handled. But that's why for any company to survive, you need connections. You need connections so that you can access tax incentives, so that they can easily weave off the penalties.
So
you don't waste time to go into to other avenues. I'm telling you this.
All right.
And one time I was sharing with this Chinese in Namave. What he told me that most of the Chinese who came had to shift to Tanzania. Reason, the taxes were unfavorable. For him to survive, he had to give some shares to some big shots. And that's why he's still in Uganda.
Interesting. That information here is, of course, shared by Mr. Tajius.
Not again.
Not Chris again. No Morning at NTV. But we are glad to amplify the information and ensure that the best possible solutions are found to some of the challenges that our traders are facing. The fact that there could be politics in business is also one very pertinent aspect. We saw the other day traders also having issues on why and at what point the strike should go on. But let me ask the gentleman in the studio, when it comes to offering solutions, I'm sure if President Yoweri Museveni said, here I am, can you tell me what to do, especially with regard to taxation and the raft of taxes that are available, what are the immediate aspects you tell the president to deal with? Reduction of taxes, reconstruction of taxes, because there could be a window of opportunity, for example, if he meets the traders at Kololo on the 7th of May. what is the solution from your point of view? Because it's important to hear that. Mr. Mumza, you seem to be deep in trying to figure out what particular regime we can roll out.
As I said here, is this tax impasse is just a sign. As you asked him and he told you that true, people have double books. That's the second sign. The third sign that you would want to see here is a trend where agencies of government have circumvented the routine of getting money direct from government, but they now want to charge fees for their continuity in terms of their operations. I'm bringing out the sign that the revenue that is required is much more than what is available.
That's right.
So the long-term solution is to have a national conspiracy to make sure that we increase productivity of the economy. Continue to reduce taxes and increase productivity of the economy. You will get so many people on the tax system.
That's right.
Because they have a lot of the capacity to be able to consume. And then when they consume, we'll get more taxes. But in the short run, when the president is coming, someone has to swallow their pride and accept that IFRIS has not been educated to the people.
Okay.
And therefore, we first find a process of how we fast track educating people who are coming on the IFRIS. But this time around, let's accept that we suspend the penalties until when we are sure that people are onboarded. In my view, that would create some sort of immediate kind of peace, breathe, and then
kill the pain temporarily.
Yes.
All right. I hope it doesn't trigger a series of lawsuits by those who say, well, I've paid these penalties. Now that we have a hold, I should be able to be compensated. Gentlemen, I'm out of time, but I'm glad that you have shared your views, and it has emboldened the nation's understanding of these matters, particularly what should be done and what ought to be done and at what point. Many thanks, Dr. Ezra Mhumza, Executive Director, Uganda Manufacturers Association, and of course, the Chairperson of Kasita Uganda, Musoke Thaddeus Naginda. It's been a pleasure. Now, we're going for a break, but my man, Stephen Mbide, is in Chengera, and of course, there is a road that caved in on that part of the Masaka Road, and I think we shall be getting the details of exactly what is being done and also do an assessment of the damage. Do stay with us. That's all coming up after the break.